starting a little late. It's about 5:47. Let's call to order the Bandera Board of Economic Development. All present. Okay, let's go. All right. Visitors to be heard. First up.
Well,
You time yourself?
you have to. 3 minutes.
Oh, they got
Okay.
time.
I'm Cindy Beckham, president of the Bandera Business Association, and with me are several of our cowboys on Main. Specifically, tonight's group is from the Bandera Cattle Company. And I'm here because I know that there is a discussion about funding for the Cowboys on Main that happened on our May 6th meeting that was with the City Council and a blended meeting. I wanted just to make sure that we are put on the next meeting agenda for discussion about our funding and our request. It is critical that with Bandera being the cowboy capital of the world, that we maintain our Cowboys presence and that our annual expenditures can reach as high as $30,000 between special events and every weekend for the Cowboys. And I have requested a combination between the EDC and the City Council, a total of $15,000. We have been approved for the $5,000 from the city. And so again, I'm just making sure that the EDC is receiving my copies and able to look at that by your next meeting or put it on the agenda for your next meeting. And that's all that I have to say. Thank you.
Perfect. Next. Anybody else?
Save it for the meeting.
Okay. Next thing we have is the consent agenda, which is something we normally do here. I want everybody here to review your minutes and any invoices or any, we have the President Shawman's resignation, we have everything to take into account. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Come on the board. Courtney?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Approved?
And
I
Christine
seconded it.
Yeah, she said. All those in favor? All right, here's the big one. Discussion and action the following elections of EDC officers. So we will discuss amongst ourselves and the public. Who wants to be president?
I'd like to make a motion.
Well, you can elect anybody.
I'd like to make a motion to elect Jared Wilcox as president of the Bandera Economic Development Corporation.
I think I'm capable of answering this. I second. And I'll say this as part of the discussion. Jared is detail oriented. He's very in tune with this city. He's at the right age and the right time to do the job that people accept. We all play. That's all I
Like you didn't blush.
Well, I guess we're in discussion. Jared, will you accept?
Jared, you want to say a word?
Yeah.
Yeah, I accept. All right.
Awesome.
All right, let's make the motion. Okay.
Well, I'd already-
All in favor? All right. Now we go to vice president.
I'd like to nominate Laura Davenport. And see, get her opinion on whether or not she'd accept the nomination, and then I'll make a motion.
Yes, I will.
That's second. All in favor? Okay, done.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're in charge, according to the lawyer.
Yeah, there was an official ruling.
No, I'm not not kidding you.
Well, that was quick, Alan.
Wait, I just want to say this. I mean, you're going to get a lot of support from these people because, you know, Tony and Christine, they're going to stay here. They're going to help us transition. We've had a lot of problems in the last year and a half with this board. And I think if you weren't going to do it, I was going to do it here. But, you know, we're not supposed to talk about this stuff before we
That's right.
anything. So
Good.
I think both of you are going to be great additions to the board.
Thank you.
All right, onward. Item 4B, review of EDC financials. Okay, is there anything that, Tony?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the financials for October 2020 through September 2021. The current, what is that? Current. I was looking for the quarter. Oh, here it is, as of May 31st, 2021.
Okay.
I'll second.
4 seconds. Discussion?
I have one question.
Yes.
Did y'all amend the budget to reflect the current amount of adjusted sales tax for the promotional fund?
I'll take that.
Okay.
If my memory serves me correctly, I think we missed the deadline to amend the budget from last year's, but so we have to include it in this upcoming budget. We can roll it in, but according to Suzanne, I believe that she was the one that said that, because it was on the agenda, and we ended up not being able to include it. So we're gonna have to make sure we have that 10%, make sure we have the 10%
Right.
and amend it in this upcoming budget, so it rolls into next year, but we can't use it this year. And that's based on memory. If anybody else remembers something different, feel free.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay, all in favor, none opposed? All right, 4C, update for administrative assistant on 2020 audit.
Yes, so my update is very brief. I last spoke to Haley Blocker on Tuesday. The EDC audit is in its final stages. I've already received the draft financial report, which is to be overviewed and a pre-audit presentation between the newly elected president and the auditor. So I can coordinate with you that date right after this meeting. The draft audit report, I was told, is confidential until this presentation takes place, and then after that, if no issues arise, then I can go ahead and include the official report to the next agenda for the board's approval.
Okay,
So I'm sorry.
go ahead.
So the draft agenda is confidential even to the entire board?
That's what I was told,
Okay.
yes.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, item 4C, consideration of promotional fund applications. Do we want to go through these 3 by line?
I'd like to make
We
a
do the
motion.
first.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion at this time to postpone reviewing any promotional applications until we can go through the proper protocols, which I don't think we're done. Notifying, putting the notices in the paper, contacting usually there's about 15 or 16 people that apply. I've gotten several calls since this agenda was posted from people saying that they did not know that we were accepting applications. So I'd like to go back. I'm sorry, this isn't a motion. To postpone until we can receive more complete application. Is my motion.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second to open it up for discussion?
like a motion.
Okay, any other motions? Yes, Ellen?
I'd like to make a motion to have the administrator publicize the promotional applications and to, out, just like what Laura just said. Make a motion to publicize the fact that we're accepting applications for promotions.
I'll second.
You've got a second, discussion?
When you open that up for discussion, can you clarify that? So what are you asking us to do?
So what Laura had made a motion for, and I don't completely disagree, but I don't think it needs to be tabled because we have been, as Alan mentioned before, we're kind of putting all this together. This should have been advertised and publicized that we're accepting applications from our organizations that we do funding for. Last meeting, we mentioned which ones, in our workshop, we mentioned which ones we hadn't heard from. And I don't know if we made any, did we make any contacts with them or do anything that, take any action item on that to reach out personally and specifically?
No.
And the mayor hadn't, when she was president, she hadn't mentioned that she had done that either. So I don't know who was gonna take action on that, but that has not been done. So this is an official motion that not outside of a workshop that says we need to advertise and maybe even take it a step further. Karina, if you could like actually reach out to the people that we've funded in the past, and I can help you with that
Okay.
list. But I think it does need to be communicated, but I do not think that we need to wait any longer on the ones that are on the table, because some of them are coming up pretty quick, and they're needing to advertise and that kind of stuff. So that's the only reason I didn't. Thank you.
I'd like to mention that Cowboys on Main did submit their application back in February or March. And they were not put on the agenda. So that was part of my reason for postponing this time.
Did you have something to say, John?
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say
I
something
was
first.
just-
That's fine.
No, I was just looking at you and then I realized I'm not giving you the permission.
Oh, okay. It is true that they did submit, they were one of the first ones to submit the application. We talked about it in the workshop, and because we don't list it here as a consideration of promotional funds, we're specifically listing who we're going to discuss and approve. So tonight, we're limited to 3, but I think that if we get them on the agenda next month and reach out to some other people, I don't think discussion and funding with the idea of we're gonna have more coming in, I think we can still be productive tonight. I hate that we missed it, but the ones that are here need it as well.
I just feel that in the past, we've all looked at all of them as one and made our decisions at one time on who gets what. And now that isn't to say that we have to do it that way, but for me, it makes more sense to look at the whole package and make my decisions on what recommendations I'm gonna make for which group, and then we come in here and kind of negotiate.
That makes sense to me. I completely agree. However, I think with this past year, extenuating circumstances, COVID, everything else that was going on, I also don't think that we need to penalize the ones that are ready to be voted on because of, I would say, take caution when we're looking at building out the amount that we're going out, and keeping in mind that there's a lot of other stuff going on that we need to keep in consideration for that. So I'd hate to see bureaucracy slowing everything down and keeping anybody from getting well-deserved funds out there for the city. But I completely understand where it's going from.
Okay. Yeah, I just felt that they were accidentally omitted from the agenda, and they should have been on here tonight. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not taking action.
And we have in previous financials how much we've given to specifically Cowboys on Main in the past, and what they're asking for. So those numbers are in my head, and I'm sure every other board member's head, as far as when we're looking at how much we dole out to everybody else too. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
And discussion, what's the motion?
That was to have our administrator advertise for the next,
Oh, yes, and what else? Yes.
and then we can move on to A.
Okay.
Or whatever numbers.
Take the vote.
Alright, all in favor? All in favor, all opposed? Okay. Next item is, consideration for promotional funds applications, 4D1, National Night Out for the Marshals. Mr. Marshall?
How are y'all doing this evening?
That's why you were hanging around.
Well, I didn't really realize until a short time ago that I needed to be hanging around. Luckily, as fate would have it, I was hanging around. I don't know how familiar everybody is with our National Night Out event that we kind of postponed back towards the front of October to Halloween night to make it a more safe, family-friendly Halloween event for our kiddos. But of course, we all know that Bandera has lots and lots of events for the grown-up children, and not so many for the actual children. And National Night Out, Nightmare on Maple Street, has turned into a huge event. I couldn't begin to guesstimate how many people came for Halloween this last year. I was shocked and amazed to find out when we did an online drawing from the names and phone numbers we took on the night of the event, that approximately half of the prize winners were from the Houston area. Some of them, one lady in particular that I talked to, had never been to Bandera in their life. I called her and she said, well, we don't live there. Can I get somebody else to come pick up the gift? I said, sure, just tell me who. And she said, well, Al from Al's Hideaway Cabins. It's the only person we actually know. Because we stayed at his cabins when we came up there. I said, well, what were you doing in Bandera? We came to Bandera for that event. And I was just shocked. She said, we had such a wonderful time. We're coming back next year for that event. And that's not why we started this event. We started it so that kids could have a safe time, not on the city streets. They could be in the park, trunk or treating, and involved in the churches and meeting our first responders and all number of things. But it's turned into something that actually attracts people to the city. And we were before getting a lot of donations of golf, a weekend of golf at the Flying L, and all manner of other stuff that kids are overjoyed to win those drawings for those door prizes. And they run up there and they're all excited until you tell them they're the grand prize winner of a golfing weekend at the Flying L. So they're a little dejected. Mom or dad sometimes is whooping and hollering in the background. We use the money that we get from EDC for promotional stuff. T-shirts that we make and sell. We promote the event through the T-shirts, through the radio. We buy gift door prizes for the kiddos, so they're getting skateboards and helmets and bicycles and all manner of stuff that these kids can use to get out of the house and do something other than sitting on their posterior playing video games or looking at the TV screen, and hopefully making a positive impact and seeing the law enforcement, the fire department, and the park rangers, the game wardens, and the city of Bandera in a positive light. So anything that y'all can do to help us out will be greatly appreciated. Everybody that's here asking for money is well deserved. So, thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Did y'all have any questions? That was my short and sweet, by the way. Thank y'all.
Well, it was awful sweet.
Where's the gift?
Hence the candy aspect.
Well, I try to give it all away because anything we don't give away, I try to eat because I don't want to waste it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so tonight here on Maple, we've got their application packet. They're requesting $2,500 from EDC received $1,500 last year. But we can see how much that event has grown and how much Marshall Dietrich has been expanding this event to make it even better. I'd like to say myself and my daughter have been going to this event for the last 3 years, and I absolutely love it. She gets to trick or treat when we really don't have a whole lot of neighborhoods in the area of the county that facilitate the youngins to be able to do that. So I think this is an awesome alternative, and it definitely brings this community together. So with that, can we get a motion?
Question, I actually do have a question. So what is the bulk of the money spent on that we contribute?
T-shirts, candy, door prizes, we do, usually, we spend a big chunk of it on flyers that go out to the schools, so that the schools themselves, with approval, disseminate them to the kids, so they're taking them home to their parents, that kind of stuff. And then, like I said, we get donations to it from all over.
Right. I just was wondering what the.
It's that kind of thing. Like I said, that way the parents are getting the information from their kids, so they know that, because we're getting a lot of new folks in. So the kids are bringing this home from the school, so they know, hey, this is legitimate. It's not something they're just hearing about, or a lot of them come from places that this kind of stuff doesn't go on.
I would agree.
Really quick, right after the application is budget
The budget.
breakdown.
But it's like an extra $1,000 this year, so it's
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
looking at the.
And I'm not the one that previously come before. I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before. I believe that's what we had asked for, but Deputy Smith advised me that they were kind of divvying things up, and they said, well, we kind of need to put some money somewhere else, and he said, it'd be all right if we took a little bit less. We can make do. If we got $500, we'll be great. And we'll make do. We'll figure something out. I just have to blame it on y'all. Hey, come on, y'all got to dig deep. The EDC they had to help somebody else. They had to help.
Stand in line.
Yeah, they had to help somebody else this year, and y'all got to. The community's been very good to us because they see that we don't have a lot of things for the kiddos, and they understand and they help out.
But you're right, we need to do it out of necessity. It's been nice with our rural community to have a conversation.
I think everybody needs to have a little fun after COVID, because the $1,500 last year probably wasn't totally utilized. Really. I mean, nobody was out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yes,
it
they
was
were.
bigger. It was that night. It was that night.
It was crazy. Yeah, so
It was crazy.
But everything needs to be ramped up a little bit, because everybody's going to want to have more fun than they ever had. So I think that's a good.
Thank you.
Tony?
Make a motion to approve $2,500 to the National Night Out.
I'll second.
Lori seconds. Discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed?
Thank y'all.
Alright, next. Riding on Faith Rodeo. Do we have Karen here?
So Karen was at our workshop and she spoke. I don't know if she knew if this was on this agenda or when our meeting was, but I do know that she's done a lot of things. We have a qualifying event, which is a pretty big deal this year. Everybody's pretty excited about that. Her rodeos on Friday nights are definitely getting to be well known and talked about, and I know that they worked well with the all-class reunion that's coming up this weekend. There was a group that approached her, and so they're having a little gathering and meet and greet right before the rodeo, and she was working with them to get them a little bit of a discount to go into the rodeo on Friday night and kind of promoting it. And they're coming from a lot of them are coming from out of town, staying in the area. So I do know that she's definitely been part of our scheme of things the last 2 years, I believe. The summer rodeos, I know at least last year, and it's good to have a regular rodeo here all the time. That supplements our our whole theme, our cowboy capital of the world. So, with that, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve $5,000 to the Riding on Faith Rodeo and readjust the remaining once we have other applications.
I'll second that.
Okay. Christine seconds that. Discussion?
Isn't that quite a bit more than last year?
So they didn't,
This is the first time
they
I
didn't
asked.
apply last year? and-
Oh,
Last
but
year.
this wasn't the,
This is the Friday night.
oh,
Rodeos.
okay. I was getting confused with the youth fair. Okay.
I was impressed with the full account.
Right?
Do we know what they're using this money for in particular?
So they've got a very detailed breakdown. It's more than 50% of your total packet.
I see, yes. Okay.
And that's what I hear every day on the radio, on Ranch Radio, I hear it multiple times during the day, so that campaign's full and running.
Any
The other
more
thing I'd like
discussion?
to,
Tony?
the other thing I'd like to point out is that she also works with other rodeos. The reason it's Friday night is so she works with other locals like the one at Kreider's and some other, so the people kind of come through the hill country. So they come here and they stay here and they tend to eat after the rodeo, which they've been trying to find, talk restaurants into staying open later. But anyway, so they've been trying to, support the smaller communities and be a circuit, like a weekend circuit. So I thought that's kind of nice to have somebody that works that hard to communicate and work with others, plays well with others.
So her and her husband Troy are very diligent in the planning and logistics that they put into this, like you said.
Passion.
They don't want to compete with other events that are going on in the area, and they really want to make it a circuit. They also utilize as much local small business as possible for all their needs that they need within the rodeo. So.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Okay, next item is Longhorns on Main for the Labor Day Parade. Jana Lindig.
It actually should be Bandera Rodeo in that application, not general, just FYI, okay? Basically, we historically had Longhorns lead the parade on the Labor Day weekend, Saturday morning parade. And it has been an expensive endeavor for whoever decided to shoulder that endeavor. And last year, the Bandera Rodeo had taken up that effort. And then, of course, we didn't have the parade. And then, again, I talked to the chamber and everything because they were the ones that had shouldered that and had come most of the time to the EDC for funding for that event. It's hard for me to talk about this because it's almost like not an event. I mean, it's just a matter of you put a bunch of Longhorns down on the road, which is a lot more complicated than that, and they lead the parade. But it is an incredible crowd draw. I mean, leading that parade with those Longhorns is what brings a lot of the people here that come here on Labor Day. So looking at it, we decided, even though, I'm serious, I'm coming off of Memorial Day weekend, I'm worn out, but I wanted to just at least come here and let everybody know that we're still taking on that responsibility, but it is a $7,000 responsibility, and I've detailed it. The producer, the guy that brings Longhorns, is $5,590, and that is probably the least expensive that you can find around. He is, I don't know how to put this, more professional than what we've used in the past, honestly. And for the 2020 Western Heritage Trail and Cattle Drive, the San Antonio Livestock Show, he was off with that trail, with that parade in San Antonio. They used him, the last one that they had. And it was pretty phenomenal. The owner walks with his Longhorns, makes sure before he ever puts Longhorns into a trailer that those Longhorns are the right ones for this event. It's really a nice thing to work with him. But again, he's very based on what I'm paying right now, at $10 a bail is what I included in there. And then hotel rooms, they need two. They're coming in Friday night. It's virtually impossible, and it's very difficult for those animals to load them up Saturday morning and bring them here. So that's what the rooms are for. The liability insurance, interestingly enough, the quotes that I got last year that we didn't have to get, of course, were $550 to $850. And I'll be checking around, but it's a fairly decent estimate to figure that that's what you're going to be paying for liability. And that's really just for the longhorns. I think I probably will go ahead and work with the chamber on the rest of the parade and get that included too, because I don't think it's an additional expense. That's what one of the insurers told me anyway. So that's where I come up with the $6,840, and I rounded it up to $7,000 in the request for the longhorns. And, you know, Bandera Pro Rodeo doesn't make anything off of this, really. It's just a matter of, it's a draw to get people here, help the community out. And we felt like it was necessary. And we do have the 2 rodeos that weekend, but we did submit requests through the city for advertising reimbursement on those 2 rodeos for Labor Day. But this is just for the longhorns only. Any questions at all?
How many longhorns?
Minimum 40, and he's gonna bring 2. That's another reason it's as expensive as it is. It's gonna be 2 full trailers. I asked him to try to ensure that there are 40 big ones. And what we've had in the past, off and on, is they bring moms with babies, and it looks more like 20 longhorns, because the babies are just not that notable. They like to have some babies there without a doubt. The children like to have the babies, but this is going to be more of a herd as opposed to a mama and baby parade.
The logistics of hauling just one of those, it just blows my mind. Yeah.
Now, last rodeo, I know, or last parade.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. How many cattle were running up?
That was.
Yeah, so
Picture.
the chamber, this is the first year that they
Yeah.
stepped up because the chamber just, it's so overwhelming to organize on top of the parade. We're supposed to have 40, same sort of thing, but we kind of got stuck with whatever.
Do we have a number for what?
Well,
This is what I'm
no.
trying to get
Yeah,
available.
40
because
is
I
a
looked
great
at-
number. 40 is a great number, and they promise us usually we'll have 30 to 40 or something, but that's exactly it. We don't know what we're getting.
So I'm trying to make a visual off of 2 years ago when I was watching it and feeling kind of underwhelmed.
Right,
Do we know
because
how
like she
many
said, it
were-
was a lot of
Do we
babies.
know how many were there 2 years ago?
It wouldn't have been more than 40, but probably half of them were.
And that was a
yearlings.
different longhorn provider.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember being underwhelmed in the rodeo, the parade, and watching when, okay, this has got to change.
Yeah, I think that year and the year before were both that way. It was very underwhelming on the cattle.
Yeah.
I think that was the provider we used for years. The insurance kept going up, his costs kept going up, and it's easier for him to haul the smaller ones, and it was hard to find another competitive person. And so I think that's kind of how it all kind of shifted with a contact of yours, Jan. I think it kind of came across your ear, and you said, well, I might be able to help find somebody, and then
It was the 2020
Took it
parade
away.
in San Antonio. I worked really closely with the organizer there, and she had hinted to me the year before that they may be going to a different long-haul provider. And when that guy was there, I picked up the phone and called her, and I said, who is this? How can I get in touch with him? Because it was impressive. It really was. The way the longhorns were mannered and everything else, it's something that you can feel somewhat comfortable with, putting them out here and having them come down the street. And, I know it means going, okay, you think about an animal that's 500 pounds, and that's a baby. How many of those animals would be impressive if they were on Main Street coming down the street? And it's hard to know, but you figure, okay, 40, that's 4 abreast, 8 deep. And when you get 4 longhorns abreast coming down the street, it's pretty impressive. 8 deep by the first 2 rows that have gone past. and he knows about the babies. And they did survive the freeze, which he has lots and lots of pastures, and he explained to me that he'd been all over and that they were okay. So, yes, sir.
Do you provide a copy of insurance to the board?
To y'all, I can.
Okay.
'Cause I've
And,
got-
'cause it's kind of, it must be difficult to get it.
It's not, okay. It's all about connections.
Okay.
I'll just be blunt. It's all about connections. And I go through a different agency. I go through an agency that's very familiar with rodeos now. I hadn't done it until this year, or actually when I started with the Labor Day Parade for 2020. And it really is. But it's not a matter of they get, I don't know how to put it, low-class insurance. They just know who to go to because they're in that business of insuring stock and insuring rodeo events and things like that. And this is not that far removed from that.
And what's the level of coverage?
What's the level of coverage? What is it, minimum $1 million? And then I think that's actually across the board. What they do, it's interesting because I have an umbrella policy with them now. We're actually covered through right before Labor Day because that's when I got it last year. And we'll have to re-up that, of course, but it's an umbrella coverage, and then they add different things to it. Like I had to add Memorial Day, I had to add a spring ranch rodeo that we did. But it's nice to have that because I pick up the phone and call him and he does it. I'm glad to share, but
I'd like to make a motion to approve the $7,000 for the Bandera Pro Rodeo to sponsor the Longhorns in the Labor Day Parade.
I'll second.
Christine seconds. Any discussion?
What is our total budget for this? Okay. Keep in mind, we still have others.
Sorry, 34,253. It looks like turned 34,253. It says marking the 10%, and then it says promotion planning revenue cap 34,253. I don't think that. I don't think.
4,708, got full ops of this, $10,000 over back into our general funds, to be used in our discretion. So,
Yeah, it's the one about, so it's a total, I don't think we've pulled anything out of this yet, for this year. I don't think we've approved any, have we? I don't think so. So I think the 34,253 is what we're showing. Yeah, and it says prior year carryover is 5,503.
Yeah.
So and then next year we'll have the delta.
and as of tonight, we're sitting at 7,500. With 1 and 2.
Right. And then,
No, as of tonight's, okay. Well, if this one goes through, then it's,
So with the
we haven't
previous
voted yet.
one, so-
right.
Are we in discussion?
Yes.
In years past, people haven't always got the full amount they've asked for in order to make sure everybody gets a piece of the pie. Not knowing what else we have out there, I think maybe we need to relook at that.
Well, that's what we did on the last one, we amended theirs half. Just kidding.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor? Okay, 3 in favor, 2 opposed. Motion passes. Okay. All right. On to 4E. Ms. Tony Coombs update on the tenement historic marker application.
yeah, until we hear back from the state, it was submitted. And so until we hear back, they give us a draft of what they wanna put on the marker, and then I think from that point, I think I wasn't expecting this one on the agenda. I don't really have an update. I think I already updated that we submitted the application and there's been no word back, so no real update, except for our new people that I didn't know.
Any questions for Tony? Okay. This time, we're going to go into closed session. Time is 6:28. Bandera EDC will be going into closed session. Convene an executive session under Texas Government Code 551.072.
I think our chief
We
ground.
have the board here.
Okay, it's 6:56. We're reconvening open session of the Bandera Economic Development Corporation. Item 6. Action following closed session. The Bandera Economic Development Corporation will convene and consider any action after the closed session.
Make a motion.
Tony?
We received negotiation of price on the land discussed in our closed session, and Christine Morris will be the point to that.
Second.
Okay, Laura seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Alright. Item 7, comments from the board.
I'd like to add another member so that we don't have 6. Because 6 is not a good number. You get deadlocked really
Do we know if city council?
So I think we need probably to put out more information on applications instead of the city.
So I know we have applications set in there, city council.
We do, and they're online as well. They're online as well.
I mean, applicants that have already filed.
Yeah, there's some there, but we can continue to get more, and all we have to do, the city council just puts it on their agenda, and we put it on our agenda.
Well, also the paper.
Do we have an idea on, I know it's not on the next agenda, when city council is going to look at those?
Mr. President, you can ask.
Okay. So I'd like to put on the next agenda, that we look at the existing applications and make recommendations to the city council.
Do we want to ask the public?
Yeah, absolutely. We also,
Let's put it in the paper too.
okay, put in the paper to solicit applications for,
If we need a motion, it's getting a little off, we're just comments, we don't
Okay,
have a
let's-
specific thing, so, yeah.
put it on the agenda for the next meeting to, take action on applications and advertising. And then I'd also like to make sure that Cowboys on Main application is on the next agenda. Anything else?
And then the other.
Yeah, if we get any other applications, then they-
Contact the previous applicants.
And no other comments.
Okay. And then item number 8, next EDC meeting. So fourth Thursday is June 24th. That'll put us back on schedule for regular monthly meetings. 5:30. Is there anyone that conflicts with?
I'll be out of town, but y'all can start the meeting, I just want you to let me, I just want y'all to know.
We'll miss you. Okay, so June 24th at 5:30. Anyone have anything else?
Turn the heat.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
There she is, that's the girl I remember.
All right.
Secondly?
I second that.
All in favor? All in favor, none opposed?
Thank you.